listening to Heroes Forge, a Heroes of the Storm podcast.
What's up, Forgers? Welcome to Season 2, Episode number 94 of Heroes Forge, a community-driven podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. As always, this podcast is brought to you by our outstanding supporters on patreon.com/HeroesForge. This is your show host, Jeff Reynolds, and I'm here with the co-host of the show, who is more awesome than breaking your diet for a holiday. It's Kristen Ashton. And Kristen, there's some holidays coming up. You thinking about breaking your diet here? Get some candy on Halloween, some turkey on Thanksgiving?
Absolutely. You only have to look super good when you're in public, but when you're behind the scenes and you can change the angles of the cameras, you can put on 10, 20 pounds and it's cool.
Absolutely. Speaking of holidays, stuff coming up, we got BlizzCon coming in 11 days. 11 days. In 2 days from now, we're going to be in the single digits here. And then everybody's going to be traveling to Southern California to come hang out at BlizzCon. It's going to be huge. Lots of stuff going on as we talk about every single week. But, Kristen, I went to a different convention this weekend. And let me tell you, there was a convention going on a lot of people know. It's called TwitchCon. It was happening in Long Beach. A lot of that stuff is going on. But I got invited to a special convention from the Lich King himself. He invited me to go to the Villain Con 2017. And I got to hang out there. And it was crazy.
Dude, okay, so I know you got to choose which factor you were part of. So who did you choose? What was it like? What happened?
So it was so cool. It was a party that was for Blizzard content creators and Blizzard employees, and it was in Long Beach where the TwitchCon was. But this party took over an entire really cool bar out there. There were cosplayers walking around taking pictures with people. I got my picture with the Lich King on the frozen throne. I was out there walking around, and they gave you a mask to wear to represent the villain that you had chosen for the evening, and you could choose between Deathwing, Reaper, Leoric, or the Lich King himself. So I was going through and I picked Leoric and got this really cool Leoric mask to wear, and then my buddy picked Reaper, and I can show you what his Reaper mask looks like. This is really bad audio if you're listening to it, but I'll post a picture of it, and I mean, it just looks so cool. It's like a full-on ceramic looking mask that you can wear, and people were wearing these masks going around. There was live music. You could go into like the Devil's Den and play dice and blackjack and stuff. It was really neat.
Holy cow. Well, congratulations. I know I saw the pictures all over Twitter, and I was just stoked to see that they would even put together a masquerade.
Yeah, it was really neat. So thank you to the Blizzard community team for inviting me to that. It was a blast and a ton of fun. And I know lots of stuff like that's going to be going on during BlizzCon. So get out here if you're planning on it, and get here early because the con before the storm happens the day before, which we've talked about multiple times. Make sure you check it out. We got lots of Halloween stuff going on this show. We've got the Heroes Halloween special happening all month where we're forging characters from popular horror films right here on the show and what they might be like if they were in the Nexus. And next week, Kristen, who are we tackling next week?
Well, next week we're tackling a legend of, I'd say, the American Halloween mythos, the Headless Horseman. But this one also brings us back to the Blizzard universe because the Headless Horseman always shows up in WoW around this time of year.
That's right, and you never know. You got to get that mount. You got to get that mount. And the Headless Horseman is already in Heroes of the Storm, but I want that playable character. I want to be the Headless Horseman myself. I mean, he's probably one of the hardest hitting bosses in the game, don't you think?
He is, absolutely. You can't stand in the poison because you're dead in a few seconds. You can't get hit by that flying pumpkin head because that'll kill you. It's a dirty one when you have to fight him.
It's pretty tough. So Headless Horseman next week we'll be talking, and this week we're talking, well, Kristen, who are we talking this week?
Well, this one, Jeff, you so proudly chose, and I am very happy you did because this movie was amazing. You chose Krampus.
Did you watch the movie? Did you like it?
Of course I watched the movie. I can't forge this hero and not have watched the movie. It is great, listeners. It's a horror comedy, which I think is the best way to summarize it. Kind of very much like the Mogwai. Don't feed them after midnight.
Right.
Don't get them wet.
Gremlins.
The gremlins. There we go.
Yeah, it's a very entertaining film, I'll tell you that much. I mean, it has some scary moments, some creepy stuff going on, and the lore behind this Krampus figure is very scary and in depth and just very creepy, and it kind of crosses that line in between two different holidays, which I know a lot of people like to do. It's a ton of fun. But before we move on to Forging Krampus, we do have a very special thank you that we have to throw out there. We have our newest patron to join the Patreon crew is Joshua K. Thank you so much, Joshua, for helping support this show. You are a rock star. If you too would like to support the show, you can do that on our Patreon website, which is patreon.com/HeroesForge, and join the patron crew. Thanks again, Joshua. Rock on. All right, Kristen, here we go. It's time to say it. Let's forge.
Let's forge.
Forging Krampus, the evil Santa, the anti-Santa, right?
The anti-Santa. I like that a lot. And it really is. And the designers for this film, hats off to them. There were incredible designs all across the board, especially because they did a lot of practical effects, which I thought was a very, very good idea.
Absolutely, and that's what makes it stand out in my mind. I mean, it's by far not a Oscar-winning picture by far, but it is a ton of fun to watch it, especially if you're looking for some scares, some comedy, like you said. And this character, I mean, from the second you see Krampus in the film, it really intrigued me, at least, where, I mean, it's pretty terrifying.
It is. It's a girl. She's going through a blizzard. And if you've ever had to trudge through a blizzard, you just know how crazy it is. And then she looks up on a rooftop, and Kyle actually didn't notice that he was standing there, but he's just standing there, which is always great. I love that part in horror films when they show you something and it's up to you to kind of see what's there. Maybe you notice it the first time, maybe you don't see it until they make it move.
Yeah, I love that. It's so cool. And then she starts running and he's jumping across the house, the rooftops, and this big, bulky creature, which is, well, Kristen, why don't you give us a little backstory on Krampus and what we know?
Certainly. Opposite of St. Nicholas, Krampus comes for the naughty children on Christmas, viewed as a half demon, half goat. In the movie, Krampus is summoned by the end of a belief in Santa by a child that only wanted his family to get along during the holidays. What happens next is a lesson in caring no one would ever forget.
That's right, and it is a half demon, half goat. So if you haven't seen the film, the best way to describe this is he's basically half demon, half goat. I mean, he's got the whole like Mr. Tumnus sort of thing going on where the bottom half of him is, goat legs and huge hooves, but not Mr. Tumnus in the way that it is a big, bulking, huge demon. Like the top half of him has got this empty black eye sockets and like this gross yellowy white gray beard like Santa, but just gross, and then like teeth and the tongue, Kristen.
Oh, it's this really creepy long tongue that comes out of his mouth, and the face that he has. It definitely, I think, is implied that he is wearing a false Santa skin face. So it doesn't fit quite right, and it certainly hangs in a very lopsided position.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. That's disgusting. Very cool, though. So what we do on this show normally is we take characters from other Blizzard universes out there and we imagine what they would be like inside of the game. Maybe there's your favorite World of Warcraft character that isn't yet in Heroes of the Storm, or there's a favorite StarCraft character. Any of the Blizzard IPs are open game for us to forge on this show. But this month, during our hashtag Heroes Halloween, what we're doing is we're forging famous horror icons on the show, and Krampus is up this week. So Kristen, just to kind of tie this to Blizzard a little bit like we've been doing every week, what do you think Krampus's favorite Blizzard game would be if he was so inclined?
Okay, so I had two decisions for this one. I thought StarCraft because of the setting up of the minions. There are a lot of little guys that kind of freak things out before Krampus himself, the hero, makes his appearance on the battlefield. Or, of course, Diablo because you send people to hell.
Absolutely. And at the end of the film, spoiler alert, I mean, there are some really hellish things that happen at the end of the film, I'll just say. I love it. I love the StarCraft idea too. How about his favorite Blizzard character?
I think he's sticking with goats and just all of the Khazra demons from Diablo. Just sticking with the goats.
Man, it's unfortunate when I read ahead a little bit because I just start cracking up before I can even get the question out. This is great. I mean, really though, that's what Krampus kind of looks like, is those goat demons from Diablo. The huge, like, top-heavy look with the hunchback and the legs that come out. I mean, that's really spot on. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, so let's get started. Let's get some forging going on. I'm going to go first this week. So the first thing we always talk about is we talk about the role classification for this character if they were brought into the Nexus. And I'm going with a warrior, Kristen.
Nice. I'm going to spoil it. I went with warrior too. He's big. He's thick like a warrior should be. He looks like a tank.
Absolutely, and I think it says tank so well when, at least in the film, when he's walking, you just hear like those huge hooves. It feels heavy, it feels big, bulky, strong, so that's why I went warrior. And this week I picked the role before I did anything else, so then I went on to the trait. And the trait here I'm calling cookies and death. The fantasy with this Krampus kit is that he'll be a massive warrior that will use his size and stature to help control the battlefield and tank for his team. Krampus is going to be accompanied by 3 members of his gingerbread crew the entire game. These gingerbread warriors will aid Krampus with his attacks, which I'll explain in a minute, but also they can be consumed by Krampus to give him health. When one is consumed, they will have a reset timer before the respawn for the Krampus player. So basically it works kind of like you're eating these little gingerbread when you need to eat them, and then they kind of go on a spinning wheel, and then they'll just pop up maybe out of his magical sack. Another one of these mean gingerbread men come out, and they're not normal gingerbread men.
No, well, how big are you thinking? Because the gingerbread men in the movie were tiny. They were about hand size.
That's how big they are. I'm imagining like a March of the Murlocs Murloc size gingerbread man that's like running around and doing things for Krampus, the evil Santa.
That's adorable. Are they targetable? Eatable by enemies?
No, they're not edible by enemies, but they are edible by Krampus. And he can just swoop down, pick one up, gobble it up, and it gives him some health and some sustainability as a warrior on the battlefield. But they're also going to do some other things. Now, these gingerbread men, if you haven't seen the film, are basically knife-wielding evil creatures that bite and, do bad things.
And they scream in high-pitched voices, and they're adorable. And you can't eat them, but that doesn't necessarily kill them is the thing. But in this one it does. And with this trait, so I'm assuming it's a 3-stack activatable trait.
Yeah, so you could hit it 3 times and gobble all 3 of your little gingerbread men up, but it's going to affect the way that your other abilities work as well, having your little crew with you. You know, Krampus rolling with his gingerbread crew. So let's talk about mounting before we get into that. So I was saying that he would be a global hero. So when your mount is activated, he takes 3 large running steps forward and then jumps into a selected direction to come crashing down on the ground. Now I'm saying global, but I want this to be shorter than let's say like a Falstad fly. Like I don't want it to be that far because I want the cooldown to be shorter so that you can use it more often. So maybe it's the length of, in between one lane to another lane. Maybe it's that far and you can't go from bottom to top, and then he would just be a rock star on like Haunted Mines, something like that. You know what I mean?
Oh, totally. Back and forth on Braxis. They can't stop you. You're taking points left and right, rolling with your G crew. No one can stop the takeover.
Rolling with your G crew. Let's talk about the first basic ability here. This one is called to give, not to give, but to take. So a little quote from the film. He and his helpers did not come to give, but to take. And this is exactly why Krampus has come to the Nexus, to help his team take the lives of the enemy team. This basic ability will allow Krampus to target an enemy minion or spawn and pick it up and place it in his sack. His sack is what he uses for his auto attack in the Nexus. So the heavier that his gift sack is, the more damage it will do to the enemy. With each swing, however, the smashing of the sack will kill a minion in it, reducing the damage for the next swing. The friendly team will gain the experience for the minion's death at the moment that Krampus swings his bag and kills one. The sack can hold a total of 5 minions at the start of the game, so if there are no minions in the area, Krampus can choose to place his gingerbread men or his G crew in his toy sack instead to help with the weight.
Nice. Now, if he puts the gingerbread men in there, do you still get XP?
No, you wouldn't get XP for that because you're also taking away an advantage of a self heal, right? Because you're putting a gingerbread in the bag and you can't eat it from there.
Interesting. So it's kind of one of those, there's no one around, but you still want to be able to do something. Here's how you can make it effective, but you will have to pay for it.
Yeah, totally. So like the first battle at the middle of the game, or at the middle of the middle lane, everybody's running out there. Minions aren't out there yet. So he can't put any minions into his toy bag. So what he does is he pops his gingerbread, maybe 2 gingerbread in there to make his bag heavier, and he can hit somebody with it. When he hits it, the gingerbread man in it dies and then goes on to respawn, just like the minions would. So if he's got minions in there, he's putting minions in to make his auto attack heavier, bigger, stronger. But each one, it gets lower and lower as you go through because they're dying in there.
Exactly. And I was just going to ask, so his auto attack is hitting people with his sack, but you hit Q and that's what loads in either the gingerbread men or the lane minions. That is pretty cool. So you get it to the max stacks, and I'm sure there are talents later, perchance, to add more stacks to this.
Oh, yeah, that's why I put that in there. So it starts with 5. So you could really, let's say that there's a point coming up, and you want to be able to deal more damage right as you run up. You're basically scooping up these minions and putting them in your toy bag to kind of, and it's a big, Santa's big red bag, with all this stuff, and he swings it around hitting people with it. That's what I imagine his auto attack is.
So is it a single target auto attack then, or is it a sweeping attack that hits everybody in the area?
Be cool. Maybe you could do something really cool and intricate with it where if it had 3 or more minions in it, it would cleave. If you have less than 3, then it's a single target attack.
That's a great idea. I support that entirely. Yeah.
So something cool like that. So that's his first basic ability. His second basic ability is called Holiday Sweets. So this is related to what you're more awesome than, Kristen. Holiday Sweets. Krampus reaches out with his long, thin tongue. This is nasty. Not like a Dahaka tongue, but just like a creepy demon tongue. And hits the selected target, silencing them for the duration of the ability or until they leave the range of the tongue. So we're basically combining a couple of things here. This is like a Leoric Drain Hope without the draining of the hope. Just kind of attaching like that, and they can leave the area. And it silences them until they do leave, or the ability ends its timer. But this ability can also be used on objectives, and as long as Krampus has his tongue connected to the objective, he will continue to capture it, allowing him to move while channeling an objective. If Krampus is stunned while using this, he will lose this connection. So basically, you could come into a tribute, Krampus latch on to this tribute, and you could move around and still use your abilities and capture that objective at the same time, unlike any other hero in the game.
That is disgusting, but also one of the best ideas ever. How annoying would it be, though, right, to have an objective channeler that can move around, so suddenly stopping the channeling would become a whole other thing. But so So visually, how does this work? Does the tongue wrap around something? Because you're talking about it leaving an area that enemy heroes can leave.
Yeah, so the tongue will like lurch out, kind of like a drain hope, right? Like he shoots it out and it wraps around you, and that's how you know you're silenced. But the tongue is only so long. Like it's a demonic tongue, so it's really long. But if you leave the area, it'll detach.
Cool. So it's not some weird barbed thing. It's a tongue, right? It's got enough muscle to wrap around, but you can just pull it off. It's not that big of a deal.
And I mean, his tongue is gross, long, and nasty in the film. It's not like super long, but I'm saying, you're a demon, so this is what he's basically enhancing himself.
Exactly. He's come to take guilty souls to hell. And what are guilty souls but the enemy team?
That's right. And then he's going to use this third basic ability as well to do that. It's called Killer Cookies. I'm sure you can imagine what this is. So using this ability, Krampus will command his gingerbread, his G crew, to attack a selected target, stunning them and dealing damage. This will use all of the gingerbread men that he has, depending on how many of them are alive. So if he's got 3 on the battlefield and he activates this, all 3 will go. If he has 1 because he's used the other 2 for health or maybe smashed 1 in his toy bag, that's another thing. So when they connect with the enemy, they will act in the same way as a march of Murlocs, but this is on a basic ability, so there's only 3 of them. So they slow you, they jump on you, they're doing that damage over time, just like those little Murlocs do, but on a basic.
I like that, and I like the potency of this ability is directly tied to how many gingerbread men you have around.
Yeah, so you want to use it at an opportune time. The really thing that you would be doing in this kit is you would be juggling your gingerbread men, juggling your trait, basically, to make sure that you have enough going on as you go into a battle and you're selecting the things that you want to do with them to optimize your situation.
Now, the gingerbread men, how fast do they move around? So they're chasing somebody. Would they be able to catch up to a speed-boosted Lucio, or would you have to be really careful as to who you sick these gingerbread men on?
Good question. I don't think they would be able to catch up to a speed-boosted Lucio. I think that they would travel at the same rate as a Junkrat grenade. Like those, as he's firing those, they're pretty fast. You can't outrun that. It chases you down if you're not going the right direction right off the bat. So I think about that fast, which is pretty fast.
Yeah, awesome. So in that case, is it a skill shot or is it simply a select a target and they go?
It's a selected direction, just like March of the Murlocs. So you're going to set this direction. They're going to run straight ahead like crazy gingerbread men, just running straight ahead. And if they happen to make a connection with the hero, they're going to jump on and do some damage.
Nice. So technically you could catch up to 3 people with 1 gingerbread man each.
Yeah. Yep, and that would be hard to control, right? With only 3 of them, it'd be tough to control. If there were 3 people, it's random who they're going to latch onto, like whoever they run into first. Maybe they run out in a straight line. I don't know. I don't know how it would look visually.
Yeah, who knows? We have to leave it up to Blizzard. We leave that in your hands, Blizzard. You wanted a cone, a straight line, whatever looks cool. We're with it.
Whatever feels good. So this first heroic is called Layaway. So layaway, Krampus will pull out his gift bag and open it up. When the bag is open, all of the damage that is being done by the enemy team in the area will be channeled into this sack and not hit its target. So imagine you open this bag up, there's like this demonic magic energy coming out, and it's basically sucking in all of the abilities, all of the damage that's happening into this bag, right? So when the channeling is complete, Krampus can activate the ability again to place the bag on the ground, and all of the saved damage will explode in a large area spell that damages all enemy heroes in that area. So you're making a bomb, basically. You open your sack up, and everything comes inside, like all the damage is coming in there, and then you close it, and you can drop it anywhere on the battlefield, and after a delay, it explodes.
Yeah, I imagine little minions are holding onto trees as the wind is trying to pull them in. They're flapping and everything. Yeah. Maybe one accidentally flies in and screams as he goes into this. That's a really cool idea. It's one of those where it would be terribly punishing in lower level play. But as you, of course, get into that upper level play, it would be one of those HGC winning moments, right? When you have that one person who has practiced every imaginable way you could do it and figured out the best outcome.
Yeah, and you'd have to really, if you're playing on the other side of it, you would have to really stop dealing damage, right? When it opens up and it starts sucking everything in, you want to stop dealing damage so that it doesn't get stronger. And that would come with abilities that you can't stop channeling, right? Like, let's say Cho'Gall, they do their pull and their ulting, and there's a ton of damage being dealt in that area. That's a moment when you're the Krampus player that you want to soak up all of that damage for the enemy.
Yeah, that's a great example. Uninterruptible damage once it's out. Like, you could counter a guillotine if you were practiced up enough, right?
Yeah, it would be crazy. So the second heroic is called Hero in a Box. So Krampus can select a hero on the friendly team and put them in a quote-unquote jack-in-the-box for a short amount of time. While in the box, the player is immune and will not be able to take any damage. They also will have increased damage once they exit the box, but the way that they get out is different than you might think. While in the box, they will hear a creepy version of a favorite Christmas carol and will need to click the mouse at the proper time to exit the box. This is going to be represented by a red light on the top of the box that lights up when it's time to click to get out. If the friendly hero selects this at the right time, they will pop out and have a significant damage increase to use against the enemy.
Oh, wow. So you're locking somebody up, and if they manage to complete the challenge that you've bestowed upon them, they're rewarded. However, it's, I would imagine, a very, very hard challenge.
Well, yeah. I kind of imagine it to be, so you're locking up a friendly character in this box. So it's kind of like a Crystal Aegis, right? You're there, you're watching somebody, or maybe even a Divine Palm or a Divine Shield, whatever it is, and you're seeing somebody like Vala, and you put her in this box and she's inside of it and she's not allowed to take damage while she's in there. Maybe you can even target the box with heals so that the friendly teams can heal the character that's inside. Then this light's going to turn on, and if Vala is able to click the mouse as soon as the light comes on, or within, like a half a second of the light coming on, or maybe even less, she can pop out and she's got a huge damage increase and just goes ham on whoever is there. If she misses the light, she still pops out, but she just doesn't have the damage increase.
Interesting. So you'd really have to know who on your team is worth putting into the box, and also make sure your other teammates who you leave out are worth keeping out of the box, because you're going to have a 4-man there for quite some time, right? In the heat of a 5-man battle.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting heroic to take, and I think that they would have to make the damage increase significant in order to make this worth taking. Like, more than a stim drone, more. I mean, it's got its pros and its cons, I think. So it would be interesting.
Yes, it would. And I love that idea of the damage increase if the player is able to land the light click. And in that case, it probably wouldn't be too hard, right? And I would imagine the song would probably play for the same length each time, or do you think that would change to kind of add a little bit of a challenge?
I think you'd have to talent into it to have it be the same song, or maybe even increase the amount of time that you could click in order to make it happen.
Fair enough, because I know I would personally need that. QuickTime events, I don't know how I got through God of War. I have no idea, but I did, and I want to replay it, but I wouldn't, because I'm so bad at those quick time events.
Oh, that's great. That's really okay. So that is my Krampus kit here, going with the warrior that controls the battlefield, using his gift bag to fill all of the minions in there, smashing the enemies with it, then jumping around the battlefield and doing some crazy stuff like drawing in all of the damage that's being done to unleash it on the enemy team at a later point. I mean, some crazy stuff going on here, because Krampus is a crazy demon dude.
He is. He literally comes to Earth to drag people to hell. That's his lot in life. He turns chimneys into hell portals. That's amazing.
It's pretty incredible. All right, Kristen, before we get onto your kit, we have some people that we need to thank. As always, we need to thank all of our patrons again at patreon.com/HeroesForge. Thank you so much for supporting the show week after week. And a thank you to Joshua K again as well. Thank you so much to everyone that's given us a 5-star review on iTunes. This really helps the show grow week in, week out if we have 5-star reviews on iTunes. So thank you if you have done that. If you haven't, and you listen to us on any of your favorite podcasting apps, drop us a review and we'll give you a shout out right here on the show next time we see it. All right, Kristen, time to move on to your kit. What is your role classification? Well, you told us it's a tank.
It's a tank. It's a warrior. He's so heavy. Like we talked about, he's a big guy. He's one of those menacing figures where you can run as long as you want, but nothing is going to stop him.
No, and that's definitely the feeling that you get from the film as well. So what's the trait that goes along with that in your mind?
Okay, the trait I'm going with Krampus Nacht. Instead of walking, Krampus moves in long, heavy leaps with a distance that can be altered so long as it's a jump within his move space.
Nice. So are you thinking that this is able to go over terrain?
Yes, I'm thinking he has a pretty hefty circle around him, maybe 3 times larger than Brightwing's healing radius, so that he has a lot of mobility on the battlefield, and that would absolutely give him the ability to jump over terrain. But it also gives him the ability to quickly reposition within that circle without having to walk.
Oh, I love that. And it's like a mini Mirrodin jump.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. So you could get in the perfect position by just jumping over someone or through something. It's great. I really like it. I mean, that's really like a Dahaka kind of thing, right? Where you can just straight up walk through people as you're dragging them, that kind of feel. That's cool.
Yeah, that's a great point. The whole repositioning kind of thing, and the feel that you can't get away from this. He has brought hell to you, and you better answer.
I love it. What about his mount? Does he come with a special mount if we bring him in the Nexus?
He totally does. So one of the best scenes in the movie is it's at the end. The hell portal is open. There's a little kid facing down Krampus, and Krampus touches the kid's face because the kid's crying, and he grabs a tear and he wicks it into the hell portal, and all the elves are laughing. Krampus kind of looks like he's laughing, and then he's got this sleigh. It's this derogatory Santa sleigh made of bone and weird carvings, and it's pulled by these hell steeds, and these hell steeds basically chuckle, but they can't high five, so instead they headbutt. So he would totally have this sleigh of bone and death.
That's incredible. And the horses would headbutt.
They would. They can't high five, but they would totally, bro butt their ram horns together.
I love it. And I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's big in the film, right? I mean, this sleigh is huge. So is this something that you're seeing in the Nexus as a huge mount?
Who knows? Maybe it would need to be toned down. Maybe it would be enlarged so that your whole team could ride with you. It's one of those creative decisions where there are a lot of possibilities.
I love it. I want group mounts really bad. I think I want a sidecar to one of the motorcycles. That'd be kind of fun.
Exactly.
Okay.
Especially if you're pairing with somebody. You're playing with your buddy. Why not? You're just going to ride together anyway.
Yeah, honestly, why not? I mean, they have that technology for the Protector and, Cho'Gall and all that kind of stuff. How cool would it be if that was one of the mercenary camps on a map? It would drop a motorcycle and a sidecar, and then you could fire your attacks while driving around in the sidecar portion of it while the driver is driving you around.
Got Ariel with her little motorcycle outfit on, and she's got the scarf flying behind her, all in the sidecar, pew-pewing.
Pew, 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 pew. It'd be great. I love it. What's your first basic ability?
The first one is hooked. Krampus shoots out a hook. If it hits an enemy, that enemy remains hooked and can be pulled toward Krampus when Krampus decides it's time to reel them in. In addition, there are angry, evil little gingerbread men that have been outfitted with tiny nail guns holding on to the length of this chain. so that any enemy that gets too close to the chain itself takes damage over time.
Oh, this is a great idea. Okay, so you've got this like loose chain on the enemy, and you can pull them in whenever you feel like you want to. You just pull it, and they come all the way to you, kind of like a Stitches pull.
Very much like that, except instead of it pulling immediately, you get to choose within an allotted amount of time.
Oh, I think that's great. Is there a distance that the enemy hero can go where the chain is broken?
Oh, that's a great question. I think as long as you're hooked to Krampus, you can only run so far.
Oh, and then
it
maybe
doesn't break the chain.
Maybe if you reach the end of it, it automatically pulls you in, or...
Yeah, that would be a great idea, because then you're punished from trying to escape, but at the same time, maybe you wait for a great moment and you pull yourself in when your team is advancing.
And I love this gingerbread man thing, because it's just like in the film where the gingerbread men are climbing down the chain and they're trying to bait one of the kids to bite the gingerbread man and then get pulled up the chimney. I mean, it's perfect. So these gingerbread men are just kind of hanging on, flying around, and if you get close to the chain, they start hurting you.
Yeah, they shoot you with tiny nails. So it's not a lot of damage, but if you're a low health hero, it's gonna hurt.
Yeah, you don't want to be like Illidan just wandering around those chains or anything. And I take it that the enemy team isn't able to stop the chain in any way. Like they can't attack the chain to break it for you.
No, this is a permanent chain.
Cool, I love it. What's your second basic ability?
The second one is called Snowman's Land. Krampus places snowmen around the battlefield that look like disturbing caricatures of the enemy heroes. These act as indestructible terrain for as long as they remain on the battlefield.
Whoa, okay, so you can create choke points or move people. You're basically making walls.
Exactly. You're setting up your own battlefield. But instead of long walls like Tassadar that can really lock you in, I think they would allow for space between each of them. You can't line them up in a single line.
Okay.
They have to be a certain distance apart from one another. But it would create a lot of chaos that you could jump into and kind of lock somebody in that case.
Oh, heck yeah. You know I'm totally down for stuff like this. I mean, this is something I really think should be in the game, where you can make terrain, or you can alter the terrain so that it makes it impassable, and it makes it impassable for the duration of the game or for a very long amount of time. You know, that kind of thing I think is cool. And maybe it is something that wouldn't be fun, but I'd like to hear about if it wouldn't be fun. I mean, because I can see how it could be frustrating, you know, blocking pathways off and doing crazy stuff, and they'd have to create some sort of algorithm that would not allow an entire lane to be blocked out. Like you were saying, I really like that idea of being able to place them, but they can't be placed too close together. I mean, I think that's a really smart way of doing it.
Yeah, thanks. Just allowing people to move around. And who knows, right? Maybe it would prove to be annoying, not only for the enemy team, but for your own team, because now they have to deal with the terrain as well. And how frustrating is that going to be when you're a thrall and you can't get to a hero to hit?
Yeah, maybe they would make it so... I just think something like this would be really cool. And I love the name Snowman's Land.
Well, that's great, and it's such a great part of the movie. I'm sad so there are evil snowmen and more appear, and it really was creepy, done very, very well. But they didn't move or anything. I was like, come on, we want snowman monsters.
I agree. I wanted them to just, you know, gobble somebody up or break through the window, or, you know, just be a practical effect snowman monster would be awesome.
Mm-hmm. But in the end, maybe it just didn't work out, right? Maybe snowman puppets are just a little too silly. So they're a lot better as creepy outliers than they are active participants.
Yeah, they did their job in this film, I'll tell you that much. They do a very good job. All right, what's your third basic ability?
Great, the third one is called the Unseen Beast. Though we never saw it, Krampus's storm brought with it a snow beast that ate those that dared walk on its ground. The Nexus is no different. Krampus whistles for this beast, and soon a small path begins making its way toward the nearest enemy hero. If it grabs them, they are pulled halfway into the ground, essentially rooting them, and take damage over time as their legs are not on.
Oh, this is gross. And this is totally from the film. You're talking about when the snow is like moving around and it grabs somebody and pulls them in.
Exactly. It's remember Bugs Bunny cartoons when he's traveling and you see the line before he pops out? That's exactly what it is.
That's the perfect way of describing it. I mean, that's crazy. Okay, so when you are stuck and pulled halfway under the ground, you obviously are able to be targeted by other heroes.
Yes.
Awesome. So it is basically a stun, but you're taking damage from it too.
Exactly. And you can still fight because you're not entirely turned off. You're able to move your top path, as it were, spin around, fire orbs if you're leaving, all that stuff. But you can't physically take any steps anywhere until you're let go.
I love it. It is such a cool idea and creepy. Just imagine this thing following you. So when you say, is it a skill shot that you have to hit, or is it something that will automatically target a hero that you click on, point and click?
I gave this so much thought. I think the point and click would be the easiest because you'd have to do the animation of it coming out and chasing the hero down. So maybe the enemy has time to fall to the back of their ranks so that they don't take too much damage.
I love it.
And it gives them a bit of a fighting chance.
I love it. I think that's really cool. I like it a lot. What about heroics? Hit us with your first one.
All right, this first one is known as Die Spielzeuge. Instead of reaping vengeance himself, Krampus decides to open his sack, letting loose an army of angry toys. Each toy attaches itself to one enemy hero and keeps attacking until it is either killed or the ability ends. If an enemy is lucky enough to be targeted by the stab bot, only enemy friendlies can kill it since it attaches itself to the back.
That's great. I love it. The stab bot.
The stab bot, so you listeners at home, if you haven't seen Krampus, the stab bot was probably the best puppet in the entire film, mainly because of the way the camera would zoom in fast, so it had a very comedic effect. Because it was a practical puppet, it looked like a little rock'em sock'em robot that had scissors attached to its arm, and so it turned and looked at the camera really fast, and it had those glowing red eyes, and it jumped down the back and just going to town with its little scissors.
That's right. It's great. I love this idea of having the toys. I mean, this is totally Krampus, right? You have the whole toy box open up, all of them come flying out. So is it all of the toys from the film? Like you've got the crazy bear with like the crazy eyes and all the gingerbread men and all the, crazy stuff.
Exactly. You'd have the Jack in the Box trying to eat somebody, be stabbing in the back. You'd have that angel trying to choke you with Christmas lights.
I love it. It's great. It's great. What about your second heroic?
The second one is called Gruss vom Krampus. It is time to judge the unworthy. A pit to hell opens up, and Krampus grabs the nearest enemy hero, dropping them in. Krampus's allies can also push enemies into this pit. When inside, the enemies take significant dot damage, and their movement is slowed should they try to escape. But if they don't escape and the hell portal closes, they die.
Oh, this is legitimate. I love it. So the ground breaks. This is like a lava pit filled of hell.
Exactly. And I would imagine it would kind of be half the size of Thrall's earthquake.
Okay.
And there wouldn't be impassable ledges like the level 20 with Sonya's Leap, the crater, but it would kind of have a little dip into it. So it would be just like a lava pit right in the middle of the ground that you could push enemies toward or into. Okay,
so that was my next question. So they're not falling down a hole. They're just fighting in this like shallower pit around here. And then at the end of this, if they're on the pit, the bottom falls out and they fall to hell?
Exactly. That would have to be it, right? The bottom goes, the top closes, and that's it.
Oh, that is too cool. The visual on that would be awesome. So if there are friendlies in this pit, I mean, can they get pushed into it? Do they get hurt by it, or are they not allowed to go inside?
I would imagine since they're the servants of hell, they would be okay.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. I love it. So When you say that they can be pushed in, is that like a physical body push of this person going in, or do you need an ability to, push them into it, like a Lucio push, for example, or maybe a, something else where you could swap places with somebody like Artanis?
That's a really good question. Because when I wrote it, I originally thought you can position so that as you push forward toward an enemy team, as they retreat, they would hit the lava. But I like that idea of needing to use abilities at level 10 at least to get them into the pit. But maybe level 20, if they touch the lava, they're in the lava.
I love it. It is super, super cool with this idea. And it's totally the film because of the end of the film with this pit that we've talked about before. And I would want the colors to be so rich, so red and orange and just even more rich than Ragnaros colors.
Totally. It's so warm looking. You can feel the heat without actually being there. Maybe they've got those heat lines coming up, so it kind of distorts the vision of the Nexus.
Oh, that's so cool. And you could use that for so many different objectives that are pushing your way. I mean, I would assume that this would also hurt like a Zerg wave or, somebody that's coming down like a Dragon Knight or something. Put them in there and deal some serious damage.
Oh, could you imagine being able to turn off a Dragon Knight if they didn't step outside of the pit?
God, they would learn.
Or would they? That's the scariest part. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. How do you wrap this whole kit up, Kristen? How do you sum it up?
Don't cramp my style.
Bravo. It's really, really great. And you know what I think is really interesting, though, is that neither of us talked about the elves.
That's true, but I will be honest, theater people, please don't take offense. I myself am a theater person, but I saw the elves, and all I could think was the production of Marat Sod that I saw. Or Hair. When everyone on stage, you're all just trying to out crazy one another. I'm guilty of the same thing. You're on stage, right? You're getting into it. You're trying to be bigger than everybody else. So that's why. The designs for the elves were great, but it felt like a theater production.
Yeah, what about the intro? I mean, I don't think it gets any cheesier. I think that might be the cheesiest moment in the film is when the elves break through the window and you haven't seen them or know what they are yet, and then all of a sudden the 90-year-old German grandma turns to the camera, looks the camera dead straight in the eye, it zooms in and she says, "Elves."
Just in case you didn't know, because you didn't know. It's the thing. But at least they told us, right? Because they could have just thrown that in there without any explanation. But it's great, too, because they've got the camera shaking side to side, and the elves are in the camera going, whoa!
It's great. All right, well, before we can call this Hero Forged, we got to talk about the best part here. We got to talk about specialty skins and dance moves. So, Kristen, give us your specialty skin.
Okay, I'm going with Skeksis puss. So the Skeksis from the Dark Labyrinth have that same look. Oh. They have those hunched backs, the big cloaks, but they have the creepy bird faces instead.
I see. I didn't remember what that was, but I know exactly what you're talking about with the beaks.
Mm-hmm. And then maybe you give it a super annoying voice. Skeksis! But I mean, if we get one of those, what are they, the Arakoa? We'll have one of those in no time. Oh, yeah. That really, though, honestly, did you see that on Reddit? Which one? They were teasing some characters that were like that for Blizzard, for Heroes, I think. Please no. Please no bird people. No, I'd be fine with the bird people. It could have been a joke. I don't know. Maybe it was a joke that I didn't get, which is totally true. Totally true. Sometimes I don't get jokes. My specialty skin is a bad Santa. So basically, you would be like a big fat man, like a bad Santa, and your toy bag would instead be a grocery bag full of empty beer cans, and your gingerbread men instead would be stray cats. Oh my goodness, that's fantastic. That wins, hands down. Maybe like you're drunkenly chucking your beer bottles, smacking them. And you're human, like you're full on human in this one. You're not, like Chad is saying, Billy Bob Santa.
Billy Bob Bad Santa, that kind of thing. Now for my dance move, I was thinking that it would be, this is just normal Krampus, would be a drunk holiday party dance. It changes every time. No one really knows what it's going to be, but it's always awesome in the mind of Krampus.
And it totally works, right? Because he would be the kind of guy that hates Christmas parties, you know, because St. Nicholas shows up and everyone's like, oh, we love you, St. Nicholas. What are you going to get us for Christmas? That was so good. And here he is just trying to do his thing, the hand he was dealt, you know.
That's right. I mean, he's just, you know, listen, there are bad kids out there, and Krampus is really doing us a service.
Exactly. He's teaching them to not take life for granted.
That's right. And if you do, you will be forever doomed to live in a snow globe.
Exactly. But, I mean, is that truly hell?
If you ask me, I think it might be. It might be really close. What's your dance move?
I was thinking he would do a shuffle. So like that, right? No true demon dances outlandishly. But when the beat takes him, Krampus has been known to shuffle stealthily. So, you know, maybe he pulls up his little fists and they go up and down and you see him sway. And if you look closely, his little goat feet are going.
First of all, in this description, when you say, when the beat takes him, and if you put that with Krampus, it's like, it's comedy, pure comedy. I love it.
Well, you can't, that's what's got to happen, right? If you've said you are never going to dance because dancing is for people who are like St. Nicholas, the music's got to take you. It's got to be so good that it just overrides your decision to not dance.
I love it. And with that, we can say that Krampus has been forged. The anti-Santa Krampus has been forged for the Nexus here. We got 2 warrior kits bringing it out here, and you can vote on which one of the 2 kits you thought was the better of the evening. You can do that on our Twitter page, which is twitter.com/forgeheroes. Is that what our Twitter page is? I don't know why I'm completely blanking.
Yes, it's backwards. No, I had to think about it too. It's the only one that's backwards.
I'm like, it's been a long week. I'm telling you, it's been a really long week. It is twitter.com/forgeheroes. You can follow us out there and you can vote on which one of the 2 kits you thought won the evening. Also, there's another thing you can vote on our Twitter page starting tomorrow. We're going to be putting up what our costumes should be for our Halloween special, which is next week. Believe it or not, next week. So get out there and vote. We each will have 4 choices that they'll be provided to us by the chat after the show is over, and we'll throw those options up there, and then we'll try to get those costumes together as soon as possible so we can bring them to our Halloween special, which will be our last special, Forging the Headless Horseman. Kristen, where can people find you on the interwebs when you're not here on this show?
On the interwebs, you can find me at Dream Destroyer, that is DRMDESTRYR, over at Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
And what games are we working on now? Have we moved on to any horror games for the month of October, or still working on Dark Souls?
Still working on Dark Souls, but I would say that is a horror game of sorts, because not only is the layout very much like Silent Hill and Resident Evil, the originals, but I touched a cup made from the skull of an enemy. Black ooze started pouring out, and then suddenly I'm in this black cave face to face with a skeleton that's at least 5 times bigger than I am.
Dang. Yeah, I know. It gets pretty scary at some points. I mean, some of those demons, or whatever they are in that game, they are pretty terrifying looking, and they pop out of nowhere sometimes, and you know how hard they hit, so it makes it even worse when you're watching, or when you're in there and you're like, whoa, I'm probably gonna die, and all that work I did was for nothing, and I'll lose all my souls. So if you're looking for me, you can find me right here on HeroesForge. We record the show live every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on twitch.tv/Amove TV, because we are part of the Amove TV podcast and entertainment network. So for more great esports and video game podcasts, make sure you check out Amove.tv. Some really awesome stuff over there. And check out that website as well for more information on the Amove TV meetup at BlizzCon the night before all of the festivities begin. Again, you can follow us on Twitter at Forge Heroes. You can send us an email, contactheroesforge@gmail.com, or you can visit our website, heroesforge.club, where it has all of the information on the 93 other episodes that we've done here on the show. Download this podcast on any of your favorite podcasting apps, including iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and also make sure that you hang out with us on twitch.tv/Amove TV on Sunday nights in the chat, because it is a ton of fun. A huge thank you to all of our patrons. Thank you to everyone that's given us a review on iTunes. Also, if you're looking for me and Kristen, we do a Divinity 2 stream on Sunday afternoons at 2 o'clock Pacific on twitch.tv/Kyle Ferguson. While you're over on Kyle Ferguson's channel, check out all of his awesome Heroes of the Storm content over there. Throw him a follow, because he's got a ton of awesome knowledge to spread to everybody, and he has made a lot of people's games a lot better. So check it out, twitch.tv/Kyle Ferguson. Kristen, any last thoughts on Krampus?
I like this character a lot because he represents that wonderful mix of life and death that we often feel toward the end of the year, right? The end of the year, the days are short, the night is long, cold, can be very scary. And we reflect upon everything that's happened this past year. And so it's just in our nature to kind of embrace it all, as it were, face it, and then move on to a brighter tomorrow.
Totally. And you know, I love the thought process of the anti-Santa in a way. I mean, it is the opposite of what we know and love as Santa. So, I mean, it's the dark side of the light side. You know, it has to have balance, and that is Krampus, right? So, it's a great film. Check it out. It's just a fun, I mean, watch it with some buddies, have a couple drinks while you watch it, have a good time watching it. Don't expect, you know, Daniel Day-Lewis and There Will Be Blood, because you're not going to be getting that.
No, you're going to be getting amazing puppets. You're going to be getting the best robot puppet I've ever seen. And yes, imbibe a bit.
That's right. Just
not too much. Be responsible. But imbibe a bit.
Let go and enjoy the films. Thank you so much for listening to the show tonight. Next week is our last Halloween episode, and we'll catch you all there in the real world.